所需也，南无我大满须耶娑哈，我南无满洲西，南无所需，南无我大满须耶娑哈。我南无满洲西耶，南无多西耶，南无大满须耶娑哈。也知道这个就拿来讲究帮助那的感受去，那的去年特别从那去，那边就上给主嘛就。也知道这个从哪来讲究帮助当地感受去，那的去年特别从那去，那边就上给主嘛就。知道这个从哪来讲究帮助当地感受去，那的去年特别从那去。后来没就上个主吧，主操是那个就是没多长，让零星你的点把的上个心都没得过，也不中能拿到现在绝吧，说一张不容让那个大的呀他呀。
이거는 주식도 주식도 되거나 동아리나 있으니까 그거는 이제 나 샌딩 하나 짓거리 좀 짜다 마마지 같은 마치 바라 가지고 이렇게 많이 미리 만든 대화를 해 원도 붙이고 이런 맛이 뭐네 이게 그때 이제 만든 대화가 되게 좋고 그래서 서버가 한 이제 지금 막 저, 지금 라마나 지금 받는 수
Please adjust your sitting posture according to 7 meditative postures of Parachana. I think all sentient beings have been my mothers. All sentient beings have been my mothers not just once, but for numberless times. They are as kind as my mothers in this life. Even though all kind mothers sentient beings want happiness and do not want even a small suffering, however, due to engaging wrongly with objects of adoptions and abandonment, they do not experience any happiness, suffering. In my mind, sincerely generate loving kindness towards all kind mother sentient beings, thinking, how nice it would be if all kind mother sentient beings had excellent happiness, and the causes of happiness, that is virtue. May all kind mother sentient beings have excellent happiness. I will cause all kind mother sentient beings to experience excellent happiness. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
Lovely, the London you know, the Jewish, never was a religion, the before Adam and Jim. So she could tell about Bishop, the Lama and she did not was ninja rules.
Hence, we generate compassion towards all suffering mother sentient beings, thinking, how nice it would be if the bodies of all suffering mother sentient beings were free from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue, such as physical suffering, pain, sickness, and problem caused by 4 elements. May the bodies of all suffering mother sentient beings be free from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue. I'll free the bodies of all suffering mother sentient beings from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
This is the one that can give you Monday. You can go to the no current, but other than the tumor, so she could tell about the machine in the number and she would this is what you know.
How nice it would be if the minds of all suffering mother sentient beings or free from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue, such as mental suffering, fear, coarse and subtle discursive thoughts. May the minds of all suffering mother sentient beings be free from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue. I will free the minds of all suffering mother sentient beings from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
We just ordinary, we just ordinary. And a lot of things are merging and what Tara. Tara got on the thing, or I think it's all about the position of the Lama, she like the same.
How nice it would be if the speech of all suffering mother sentient beings, free from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue, coarse and subtle negative speech such as telling lies. May the speech of all suffering mother sentient beings be free from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue. I'll free the speech of all suffering mother sentient beings from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
We just ordinary continue maintenance of most of the beach or to one. We chose Tara got on the thing, so I think it's all about the rest of the Lama, she like the same.
How nice it would be if the three doors of all suffering mother sentient beings, free from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue. May the three doors of all suffering mother sentient beings be free from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue. I'll free the three doors of all suffering mother sentient beings from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
We just in here, 20 knew that the major Jim do what I can do. So you thought that we shall with the thing of Lama and she got the same.
How nice it would be if all sentient beings were free from suffering and the causes of suffering that is non-virtue. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. Or free all sentient beings from sufferings and causes of suffering. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
We just ordinary to Jimmy Monday sport and just don't want to do it. Kusla we don't have to get that in because the hunter was the son is a Kumpala Niban, Tabaniba Slur. You know, what do the Sunday and you such a Punji, the son is a Kumbara, but you can't get over show to sit for his.
Next, we generate bodhicitta by first asking oneself, who should take on the responsibility to free all mother sentient beings from the sufferings of samsara and of lower realms? I should take on the responsibility to free all mother sentient beings from the sufferings of samsara and of lower realms. Even though I should take on such responsibility, but I do not have the ability to do so. Who has such abilities? Only those who have achieved the perfectly complete enlightenment have the abilities to do so. Therefore, for the sake of all mother sentient beings, by all means, I will achieve the state of enlightenment.
你就是这长期这个上去就搞到了小，比生活说吧，等于让你个得意做，我是在哪把接住的，这个接住，一直没这个地方是什么事，就是天上的讲一些，让你个得意点的多这个嘛，这个都哪把接住，就是你说都是那个接住，这个时间。
Next, we generate all-encompassing yoga mind, the aspiring conventional bodhicitta that thinks, for the sake of all mother sentient beings, I will achieve the state of enlightenment. These transform into a complete mundis at one's heart. And the ultimate bodhicitta, that is one's mind becoming in one taste with emptiness, the lack of inherent resistance. That transform into a white five-pronged vajra on top of the mundis.
你就是到中国的人物的这个期待在看到了嘛，这个上去就这个多少人，这都是多么的这个生意。
Next, we meditate on emptiness for a short while. That I exist, neither intrinsically one with, nor intrinsically different from the aggregates. Thus, I am empty of inherent existence.
You just know you talk about the sugar and she goes to the gates or someone Jesus project to you know, just super budget. On the conduct. For instance, the Jimmy was on the machine and some of the Jimmy because of that he is subject on the Puma or the other children. Yes, some of the Jimmy, some of the maybe, no say a good unit to the way now. Yes, some of the Jimmy gets at it. Jimmy Passion always see the windows.
As I always say, it is very important to conjoin whatever virtue that we do with our three doors with the practice of six perfections. And the first one is the practice of generosity. The nature of generosity is an intention of giving. So the roots of virtue of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma is for the sake of purifying the suffering and achieving the happiness for all sentient beings.
Let's say there's a conduct. So this is what the conduct. Always in the teaching was in the machine. There's some to Jimmy because you have been engaging about some of the major. You have been engaging about the Jimmy one and your suppose. You know, when you suppose to come, Jimmy get that the three questions in the rest.
Next is morality. Morality is a mind of abandonment. So during these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, I will properly abandon my physical and verbal negativities.
I'm too big. Sympathetic also by machine. There's always a Jimmy because you say like the way the coming by teaching when you get off in the certain way. Yeah, which you might not. That's positive. Get that this is the question of this.
Next is patience. The nature of patience is an undisturbed mind. During these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, I will be patiently accepting any physical or mental hardships that occur.
So this is what I think the give out to is about the was some machine. That means some was a jabber a bit. There was a big tendency to some way now. That means some was a GP case at it. That's the position of this.
Next is joyous effort. Joyous effort is a mind that delights in virtue. So I will delight in the roots of virtue of listening to, contemplate, and meditating on Dharma.
而从比说的讲的性别没个空的自己的那个的上头就我什么东西，也少不是前面告诉，身体弄多的弄有我的帮助，也少不是级别给小娃子的身体最基本的不要熊把人呢，我也少不是级别给这点，非常的关心两个事情的事。
Next is meditative concentration. It is a mind that single-pointedly focuses on any virtuous object. But during these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, I will single-pointedly focus my mind on the virtuous object, without being controlled by discursive thoughts and distractions.
我觉得东西就是我的，写了就我什么东西，我年少过是级别告诉的，因为现在在考虑了的，现在不可能跟他细节毛了吧，细节毛了吧，也不是写多吧呢。我年少过是级别给这的写了，我是两个事情的事。
Next is wisdom. Wisdom is an awareness that thoroughly distinguishes phenomena. I will properly and correctly understand the words and meanings of the teachings that I listen to, contemplate, and meditate on.
我学生就团结点的上去去工作的话，第一句的到全部我就是不出去那个，这个新世界来工作的，这都是那样的继续。
Set a good motivation. For the sake of all mother sentient beings, I will achieve the state of enlightenment. For this purpose, I'm going to listen to the holy teachings and practice accordingly in order to benefit sentient beings.
可是他们的地方来的，人民营造是以前这些人现在就晓得，中国吧是中国问题，那比如啊，我们人民营造了，
세대 말을 해.
啊，
세대 말을 해.
不是，
예,
我们人民营造了，
원한 재미 없으면
我的，我们人民营造了，包括第一次是他讲到整个人民这个生命到了，那所以是呢，那现在的看结果也是他写了几乎把的那些个吧，
춘세 세대로. 춘세 세대이 나이죠.
啊，
춘세 세대이나.
可是
춘세가 원한 재미 생미발라 봐봐.
我的准备生命不了，大部分别走把的，我就就是这么的，啊，这可以啊，这可以啊，是我们的真的，这可是可以，是吧？
장라이. 농암의 슈마 시스템.
我们准备生命不了，大部分这来吧，这样的人很多啊，这刚刚也的，啊，我们准备生命不了，大部分这多啊，
저 지금이야 이제.
啊，
근데 제가 지금이다. 내가 그냥 쇼가 소리를.
就可以。
등에 뒤라 뒤쪽에 이내 뒤가 요르베.
松巴的，松巴我的准备生命把它搞吧，要不你别早把的，有几个听见也不有点的，我那里的可以啊，对啊。
Ken, I think we stop at the further up, isn't it? At the top of 301, page 301.
301.
301. Someone might wonder. Yeah, before that we stop.
对，
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
是，
라서. 원하러. 라서. Yes. 이미 고쳐러 와.
说的没，
라서. Yeah, so someone might wonder, well then, while mindfulness ties the mind to the object, is it appropriate to generate conceptual thoughts that observes whether the object is being held well.
This one.
Mm.
Or that another Jamie, what is not another in it's not in a Shinji, Sarah. Yes,
Yeah, so basically, the meaning of these questions is, while mindfulness ties the mind to the object, then one has to watch one's mind or check one's mind, whether the object is being held well or not.
What was Baligota? Not Jamie on the Silva Nepa, Zibbetina, he said, Zinga, Shara, she could talk about Cheddars over the is that it was. Shabu Bori Bombardier, Chewy, yes. Check by the current, some of the Gori Baba is so like
So in order to answer these questions, so is it appropriate to generate a conceptual thought that observes whether the object is being held well or not? The answer is yes. So one needs to do so. This is quoted from the second stages of meditation.
Mikani, Chemus, Shara, and Chimida, the kitchen Limura. Indians, Papone, Maris Burwa. Indian, stick the Shangi, the part, Shara, your Maris Burwa. I don't need that mission. That thing is like me, she began to Shabata. Said the people made up. She get condo, so she get condo, so it will be a Shara Chiburi, it's like Shani, see the people think of the Lachani, the Hatan. You go to the Sharab Mahima Mahima. It will do to the young, no one ever Sharachi Mahima. Wow. Say the Remy say, Lama, the same people are shouting, shooting. Mana touch. Say the people are shouting, the shouting. These Jay because people are child saying, but these shooting over. No more Mana, the Parola. Sharachi, yes, of course. Wow.
So specifically, it is not that you first release your concentration and then observe in this way. Rather, from within your placement in concentration, you merely observe whether the mind is still on the original focal object like before, and if not, whether it has become excited or relaxed. So he's not saying that even though you need to monitor, you need to check your mind, or you need to check your mind whether your laxity or excitement has a reason or not. So even though you need to do so, it doesn't mean that you have to let go of your concentration or release your concentration and then check whether your mind become excited or lax. So the proper way to do so is, while you're still in the concentration, while your mind is still tied to the objects of observations, then you check whether your mind is your mind has become excited or lax on. In other words, is whether excitement or laxity has a reason or not. So you have to wait. So once your mind is placed in concentration, you should observe it now and then at intervals neither too short nor too long. So for how long that you should the gap between checking your mind is how long? Then the answer is, then you should observe it now and then at intervals neither too short nor too long. So if you're too short, then you will affect your concentration. Similarly, if you're too long, then in between, the laxity or excitement might have a reason already. So if you do this before the force of the previous mind has been exhausted, it has the value that the mind will become vibrant again, or the clarity of the mind will become intense or strong.
Oh, the top of the is Renda. What the thing you could like small. So Tomicala. Okay, Tomicala pay, you do to the city pay. Okay, and you take a shadi or we shot it. We found another. You don't think you know has not. You should do this. Much to the water. You Nomita, last one, Shinda, never you. I send a Shima that group of never you want. How to leave Ipasha, you know, Jubicala. Jubicala, what is Mamma needs it. I, she's 对养家的目的是的养家，确实我的养家的目的呢，把这个业主把它弄的是，你先给熊的人呢，还光是不弄还是我是，先给中国老师还不弄还是，这个呢给熊不的行业。
So this is something that we can observe in our in our meditations. Like for example, if we observe the object such as a Buddha's image, so when our mind is single-pointedly focused on the object, and if we also when our mind is still has the intensity, so because we focus our mind, we tighten our mind or we focus our mind on the object. So if we do not check after a long time, then this intensity of the mind will become weaker. And when the intensity of the mind becomes weaker, then laxity or excitement will arise. So instead of holding the intensity of the mind for too long, so while you still have the intensity of the mind, then you check whether laxity or excitement is a reason or not. So in this way, then you can quickly recognize whether you can quickly recognize the laxity or excitement if it has really a reason.
那第一节的我们嘛，这第一个包包的那个，我们真是心里中啊，真的多些话是第一个的不多啊。那这个表达的搞的是你们听到的，真比你把马鸡把样样动，还是他的。那真比的，你把马鸡把中间的事呢，但中间还是要性的，我的心里头有的话，这个是中间大部这个看的要不，你大部上个大部这个是而是呢，那真把的心里超过，哇，我到底真比的。你把那东西，你把这马鸡把它准备给人啊种，你把这农村也要种，还是我，我不一定那么喜欢。
So maintaining the meditation like that, periodically recalling the original focal object is also necessary with the cause for powerful continuous mindfulness. So there are two factors that there are two important factors for maintaining one's concentration. These two factors are mindfulness and vigilance. So mindfulness is the one that do not let you forget the objects of observations. Therefore, you should periodically recalling the original focal object.
我觉得这个看到颜色的嘛是松是吧？那颜色的遇到个结果就是那么松下来，看到就为了不去给松长是吧？这个颜色预测也不应该说了。我到别把这个样做到的，别把的那你把这个样式的，把这个别把的。 你这个养生，你把这些这个这个，你这个全部也是个，把你养生是，你养生是真的不少的，不仅就这的，你这的，你养家基础，我们养家基础，养家人的做的，那马街去多啊，这个东西多，这东西，这东西我说，兄弟，你说的话，可行，我都是说呢，你马街吧，去上你养家去，哪里养家去做，对吧呢？ 这东西买几个，我买几个有的也是哇。那点把的你把它点不起来的，那点不起掐是掐了，也人家目前的点把的点还是目前的样子点还是个，对吧？那这点把的东西，他记下来了，点把点这个我是生命把了，就是点把的具体种个点的看的，现在的被就买起了不嘛是吧？现在的就买起了不嘛，点把的看的就买起了。 你把它现在没把它，大把东西刚才说过的，他不仅用我看的。
So Rinpoche quoted Sravaka levels and explanations of distinguishing the middle from the extremes to support this point. So that is why this method for maintaining mindfulness is set forth in Sravaka levels, and why it says in the following explanations of distinguishing the middle from the extremes. So this mindfulness, we need to recall the objects of observations with mindfulness. Periodically recall the objects of observations, and it is necessary because it's just like, for example, if we have to memorize some verses from from a great text. So in order not to, we need to recite, even though we have memorized it, then we need to recite it every day. So if we recite it every day, then we will not forget the few verses that we have already memorized. So in order to make us, in order to have a strong memory, or in order to make us not to forget objects of observations, then we need to periodically recall the objects of observation. Recall the object of observation as well. So, and in order for the mind, to hold on to the object, mindfulness is necessary. Continuous mindfulness is necessary. So not only mindfulness is necessary, continuous mindfulness is necessary. So it's just like the rope that ties the mind to the object of observations. So even though continuous mindfulness is necessary, however, vigilance is not. Continuous vigilance is not necessary, just like the mindfulness. Yeah, so we need continuous mindfulness in our meditations, and this is the way to sustain mindfulness in our meditation, which is we need to sustain it continuously. And so by doing so, there are two aspects. One is from the aspect of negations. Another one is from the aspects of accomplishment. So from the aspect of negations is, by doing so, one stops or eliminates distractions. And then from the perspective of accomplishment is, one will accomplish the non-forgetfulness of the objects of observations.
this is what they was just suggest somebody that one marwa. Such a somebody can that somebody also did it and that did it. Inji says what and think it's hidden. That did it. Another what my share what this about the do to be teaching about the yes that what say that nearby your has a TV with Sinibala. It's Tena. It's that's it about it. You that's it. You that's it. Yes, that is what good one you that.
Next is determining the length of sessions. So someone might ask, now, is there an established length of meditation sessions specified in terms of tie the mind to the objects and place it for just this long. So basically, this question is about how long should I how long should I do the meditations? Is the length of sessions specified?
那时候当然根据这个基本这个是吧？有的，你这个有的有马来西亚多的领导啊，那个多的领导，这个你上说的对，这个真的一切，他不是少啊，哪有马来西亚的，就说话，少有是哪有马来，你那国里他们是说的也很多，我的说法是呢，反正人不对，反正确实几个，没对。每次，后期第四个小问题，就是多的对，第四个大家嘛那个话，第四个小问题，但是这个的也是，我们他们这里是要的是情况。
So regarding the length of time, whether is it specified in the text or not? So major texts such as Sravaka levels do not seem to clearly hold an established length. So in texts such as Sravaka levels do not specify that. And however, the third stages of meditation mentions the length of sessions. It says doing these practices in this order, sit for 24 minutes, an hour and a half, 3 hours, or as long as you can.
那就是那个取证，取证就接到我们啊，我们给这个新闻的，那个你讲的，觉得你说你的拍家里面有的是吧？他讲的，你取证是很有么这个新闻啊，他讲的，知道你下去了吃多久，你下去了吃多少，讲的，就是取证几个，没这些嘛，你下去了吃多少吃几多啊？我的去了讲的取证几十多。我的晓得，他讲的听到都对讲的，说的，说了只讲的泥巴，说泥巴，搞这些纯粹的搞这些别工作，就是我们那个泥巴都当不了什么的，听到不能，对，没有搞这些工作，你说是我那个泥巴的搞没事，是吧？他说我弄泥巴的，当然还是，我那是说什么吧？对，小别干了，那是不对。看懂不明，看懂不明白呀？这个离了马地吧有啊，是吧？看懂不明白离了马地有吧？呀，我的你你了不？你有啥话？你那是呢？我呢，你是通小也是，刚刚说连头毛了，那你通也是，你了不？你那个叔叔，你把的那个你把的娘们都门都，这大西个家伙也是我。如果你把了两百下的，你把的嘛两百要不就为了地就这样给我买的时候，是吧？我在等着点一下。
So these 24 minutes in Tibetans, if the same words in Tibetans in the past, then it refers to 24 minutes. And the same word in nowadays, then is referred to 1 hour. So anyway, it doesn't refer to 1 hour here, and refers to 24 minutes. So this 24, how do you get this 24 minutes? Is you divide one day into 60 parts, and then one part is equal to 24 parts. So you divide one day, 24 hours, to 60 parts, and then you will get one part or one period of it as 24 minutes. So you sit for 24 minutes or an hour and a half or 3 hours or as long as you can. So basically here, what it means is you need to, you meditate for however long you meditate for however long your according to your mental capability. Yeah. So you meditate according to your mental capabilities. So if your mind is able to stays on the object without any comfort, like for example your physical discomfort or your mental without any physical discomfort, then you're able to your mind able to hold on the object for a long time without laxity or excitement. Then you can stay, so that you can stay in that meditations. So if your mind has degenerated, then it's better not to meditate for longer time, for a long time. So especially for newcomers, especially for beginners in meditations, it's better to meditate for a shorter time than a longer time.
근데 간다 머리 담을 숨바데 간다 신이 두신이 한도 공비 뒤지 빈세 숨바데 나 하세 그러니까 때 한도 공비 네 주는 한도 공비 뒤지 빈세 코 숨바나에 근데 또 정말 신이 그니까 그냥 된다와 해서 된다와 그래서 간다 여기까지 간다 된다 때를 지켜는 누구를 해서 신이 두발라 야야는 누구를 해서 오르와 그 소야 되는 거 신이 두신이 때 한도 공비 뒤지 같은 뒤지 소야 무슨 오르와 네 리나때 네 가서 정말 신이 주고 가서 돼 그냥
So these lengths of sessions is mentioned in the context of establishing the length of meditation sessions or cultivating special insight. So after shamatha has already been accomplished. So even though these length of sessions, explanations of these is mentioned in the context of cultivating special insight. However, this explanation is applicable to the context of cultivating abiding as well.
어디 오는 것도 대학 말시 받아 또 봐도 밑밥 된바도 봐도 내가 신을 팀중에 그냥 제외면 내가 내 담보가 되지만 리나 지니기 스타디가 되다 되시면 간다 내 담보랑 팀제들 리나 근데 뭐 차나 그래서 까와요 그래서 와 이게 봐 빨리 타요 그래서 와내 담보가 있으면 가도 되지들 그래서 그래서 네 대답 마시고 와 내 담보가 나서 괜찮을 때 금방이나 넥스트 페이퍼 까고 있네서 와.
So here it talks about if you recollect the objects and observe your practice periodically, the method for maintaining mindfulness and vigilance. So these paragraphs talks about for most beginners, then it's better to set the meditation sessions short instead of doing a long meditation sessions. Then you should do short meditation sessions. So, and by doing so, then it's easier to detect laxity and excitement. Then it's easier to remove the laxity and excitement as well.
그래서 이 공부가 같이 필요해 봐. 누가다 누가해봐도 되게 좀 봐봐도 미봐 개마다 봐봐도 잘하시는 우리나 뒤쪽에만 다 공부 쉬어 봐. 그때 가서 이거 대시 여러 되게 때네. 이게 때네 되게 봐봐도 그때 간다 지금 되게 잘하시는 그때 야 시바이나 저리나 지금 그래서 봐. 되게 멤버 이거 지금 좀 뻘뻘을 시기 시간씩 시작이 되고 있나 그렇게 돈에 이렇게 되나 그래서 이거 말해서 제가 이거 말해서 이나야 내 담보가 간다 이나 이게 제바다 세연의 도와다 이빠데 이게 제바다 세연의 도와 신기로 주나야 유리몰라 나뭐 뭐시바 좀도 이거 왜 무슨 봐 그래 왜 쓰는 거 봐. 미국에 예세다 내가 뭐 좋아 그래 예세도 뭐 예세와 그래
So if you recollect the objects and observe your practice periodically, the method for maintaining mindfulness and vigilance explained above. So meaning that you recall your object periodically, you maintain continuous mindfulness, and periodically vigilance check whether laxity or excitement is present or not. So if you do so correctly, then your meditations is faultless, so free of the faults of laxity and excitement. Then you can do your meditations for a longer period, only if your meditations is faultless. So however, for most beginners, forgetfulness arises if the sessions are long and they become distracted and mentally wander off. And although laxity and excitement occur in the process, they do not identify them quickly. Recognize them only after much time has elapsed. So, so for a beginner, then it's good to set the meditation sessions short. If you were to do meditation for a long time, then this forgetfulness will easily arise. And then once one will become easily distracted, And even if laxity or excitement has already arisen, we do not quickly recognize them. So therefore, for beginners, it's better to set a meditation session short.
对，刚才你把马季讲，心里就往很多了，是吧？你把马季讲心里往很多了，你希望你不眼不是，你不眼说的嘛？这点你看到，那你一边，你把多的教了，就也是我的准备啊，是不？你把全部你教了，是吧？把全部也是，心里多的教了，这个这心里最高的也是，看到，那就你当不的看到。这是你一直通吧，那有的也是你等着的些我话，你就通吧呢，你多这些这样是，是吧？这样是听怕下，这样是听，你忙这些，你多些也是，你忙这些东西，我你就呢，我们你把的学的嘛样吧，我也是。
Yeah, so these will cause the obstacles to the development of strong mindfulness or powerful mindfulness. So the advice here is we set many sessions and each session is short. So if we set many short sessions and then and do it for many times, so what it is better to do it that way because in each sessions the strength of our mind has not yet ceased or weakened when we stop the session. So it's better to do it that way. Short and many sessions, and each sessions also we maintain the strength of our mind.
Because there are total amount of TV shows in the kitchen, more is that there are doing what the show was. We do to a TV, can do what you told the people on it. Provide TV, you can find out. The eye is that and that is what and then that's what was a bit on board to be sure with what. Can be, you also things to the Chimina, and the she gives a chair, yes, chair, yes, what.
So for beginners, it is better to set it's better to set a meditation session short. So in which our mindfulness is properly held or properly sustained, and if laxity or excitement arises, then we can also quickly remove it, detect and remove it.
I think the world Monday would not mean and doing, being the given to the world Matar. You can't around the lunis that the Shabures around no, but Shabures to that area. Yin and doing Jimmy Chawata, she Chuna, Pin Chungula, as well. As it being a chica, she didn't put for the banana. You're near Jim for a minute. The same does the same on your person. Yes, why? That is it. You must know about it. Yes, I think it can let the Mokashi with not. Only look at me, but I think it. That the world. I don't know further thing that did it. Let's have to tell my show.
Short sessions are needed in the event of great forgetfulness or the mind getting distracted and wandering off a lot, when the vigilance that quickly identifies laxity and excitement is weak. So it means that I'll say whether to meditate for 24 minutes or longer or shorter, then it depends on one's mental capability.
the genius, genius, say, genius, Simba, Simba, the big she but you put you not, then see the two, yes, two so yes, with this.
Yeah, in case if one always forget one's objects of observations and the mind always get distracted, and the vigilance that quickly identifies laxity and excitement is weak. So if we, if this happens a lot in our meditations, then it's better to set the session short. So on the other hand, if forgetfulness rarely arises and it seems that laxity and excitement are being recognized quickly, then there is nothing wrong with slightly longer sessions either. So if forgetfulness do not arise frequently or seldom arises in your meditations and laxity and excitement are quickly recognized, then you can you can do your meditations slightly longer, then it's also fine. So it is with an awareness of these that the duration is not specified as 24 minutes and so on. So because of this, then durations is not specified as 24 minutes and so on. In brief, it says as long as you can. So like here it says in the third stages of meditations, or as long as you can. So yeah, so in brief, it says as long as you can, because the length must accord with one's mental abilities. So to conclude or to summarize all these explanations, it says in brief, it says as long as you can, because the length must accord with one's mental abilities. So whether should you meditate for a long time or for a short time, for how long, etc., then it must accord with your mental abilities. Therefore, it says as long as you can. So apart from that, you should rest in meditative equipoise. So rest here also means that you should remain or stay in meditative equipoise unless you suffer some temporary physical or mental harm. So if that happens, do not continue meditating, but rather eliminates the obstacles to your physical and mental constitution first, and then meditate. So if nothing happens, such as those temporary physical or mental harm, in other words, is if you physically feel discomfort or mental, if you feel discomfort, then you should pause your meditations, then remove those obstacles. So those physical or mental harms are obstacles to your meditation, right? So you should first pause your meditations, remove those obstacles. If it is a physical pain, for example, then you should whether to put on some medicines or ointments or etc. Then remove the obstacles already, then continue your meditations instead of. So you should not insist to meditate or to continue to meditate your meditate. Sorry, to continue your meditations. So you should pause and then settle the problems, then continue the meditations.
That is just somebody. That's just somebody can people are team who can that check the that people are sitting who that can check the so that did what that did that direction.
So what to do after focusing the mind on the object?
신비兄弟지다셔 신비의 자디 지다셔 that's what 디마시오다 얼마 신비는 무슨 얘기 못 되고 그래서 그 포인트는 못 있는 것 때문에 신비의 진이 되는 거 그것도 비신 지금 제가 그래서 지금 마사지 그거는 말다 얼마 그거 마시
the có to this 차상대 the
그것만 세트로 되지라죠
also.
그런데 가서 뭘 그만 되죠.
So under this outline, this has 2 points: what to do when excitement or laxity occur, and what to do while free from laxity and excitement. And under this outline, then again this has 2 points: applying the antidotes for failure to notice laxity and excitement, and applying antidotes for not trying to eliminate them even though they have been noticed. Applying the antidotes for failure to notice laxity and excitement. Again, this has 2 sub-outlines: defining laxity and excitement, and the method for generating vigilance that recognizes laxity and excitement during meditations.
나도 대화도 되마 다드시고 세미발을 띠고 어디 기타 간이 제거니까 신기 신기 간이 지다 제거를 신기가 대리 기타 제거를 해서 근데 대시오디 신기 신기 기타 기타 제거를 해서 넣어디 그거 신기를 무슨 그 신기를 무슨 신기들아 나한테 제거 한테 되기나 제거를 와 아주 신기 위해서 다 너무 가서 그거 시고 와 시고 그거 가다 아마 산다보다 군디를 쏘와 군디래 몇번 가는데 또 비세미기 비스기인데 자기 차도 비세는 뭐 마시와 시비지 빠도 지금 레제스 근데 자꾸 뭐로 데리다 제가 와 그거 뭐 군디 뭐 비스 군디 쏘와.
So in order to stop laxity when it arises, then we must first identify what laxity and excitement are. So excitement is just as stated in the compendium of Abhidhamma. What is excitement? It is a very unpeaceful mind, form of attachment that pursues pleasant signs, and it has the functions of disrupting shamatha.
다른 무슨뭐야 보다 다가서 그거보다는 이봐서 넘바의 지리를 송도와 그거서 좋아 다들 좀 해하고 쓰고 좋아 미바의 간이 무슨 그거보다 미바의 이도 오시도 봐 이도 와 그거지라 미바다 간데 무슨 그거보다 내가 그거 말하는 놈이 와 딜로 와서가 미바의 간다 이도 와치 예스 아무튼 좋아.
So this has 3 features in these definitions. It has 3 features: object or object of observation, aspect or subjective aspect, and functions. So first we talk about object. So since excitement is a form of attachment, or it belongs to the category of attachment, so its object of observations is something attractive and pleasant.
문제는 이런 CP 넘버 센터샤 이런 CP 넘버 세 마시시 좀 좋아 이게 누가 좋아 넘버의 세 넘버 마시와 실 좋아 이거 샤기 차시이 좋아 나 이런 CP 넘버 좀 봤어 나 이런 CP 넘버 세 봤어 센터샤를 와 이런 CP 넘버 좀 봤어 나 디비전 넘버 센터
So its aspect is the mind being unpeaceful and scattered outwards. And because it is a form of attachment, so in other words, it belongs to the category of attachment. It engages its object through craving. So which is so craving here is also a attachment. So because it is a form of attachment, it engages its object through craving.
뭐 들어와. 아, 그거 되게 싫은 것은 세미 발라니까. 이게 저 세미 발라니 같이 제거해서 이게 들어와. 나 이거 세미 발라니까. 발라니 발라. 나 같이 제거해서 들어와.
So the functions of excitement is to disrupt or hinders the mind based on its object.
나는 그거 용도로 그거 들라 간다. 그거라 뭐가 라반이 되시고도 와. 그거는 뉴스데 알아니. 아 잘하니 지금 아빠들 가서 뉴스에 나버렸다. 그거 아빠들 뉴스가 지고 나버렸어. 근데 그거 아빠들 우리 가리고 있으나 그 밑에도 쇼네. 밑에도 쇼네 좋아네. 그거 아빠들 지금 밑에도 밑에도 라에 배서 와. 라에 딱 길어 봐. 길어. 와. 이로. 와. 뭐 밑에 레고디 그거 아빠. 그거 아빠들 뉴스 하고 와. 밑에 쇼네 좋아하세요. 그거 좋아해. 와. 무슨 제발이야. 나지 포화라 그거 이거 말했어. 그거라 포화 이거 말했어. 와,
온다. 포화당.
포화라 그거 이거 말했어. 포화도 가서 이거 나야 좀 이거 봐요. 너무 무서워. 이거 그거는 그거는 이 포화들 그거 이거 말했어. 그거들 포화 이거. 뭐게 어디 그거 안 믿으셔네. 근데 포화 믿으셔네. 포화你不是你的话，在基本上那个话，你得学你的话，你得学你错。那错下次呢，你如果就不话，你去在你们义务这个错的话，没问题。我把它搞办，但你得学你错的，我把它发现。
So to identify excitement can be divided into two types. One is coarse, another one is subtle. So it's easy to identify the coarse excitement. So when one loses the objects of observation, so you totally lose the objects of observations, and your mind is distracted or scattered to other objects. As identified just now, is an active object or pleasant object. So when you lose your objects of observations, your mind scatters or distracts to other objects. That is forced excitement. So when we talk about scattering and excitement, so if it is a type of scattering, then scattering is not necessarily an excitement. However, excitement is necessarily a scattering. So when we first say that scattering is not necessarily excitement, is because one can scatter due to other factors such as anger, such as anger, or such as ignorance. Then one can scatter due to that. So, however, if it is an excitement, then it is necessarily a scattering, because when we identify the coarse excitement, says that one loses the object and when one scatters or one distracts to other objects.
그래서 그거 아빠들 제일 나오더라. 그거 아빠들 가서 뉴스 나왔더라. 어디라 그 쇼에 쳐도 그거 아빠들와. 아, 니빠 마셔 가니까 또 봐요라. 딱 니빠 마셔 가니 또 봐. 그거 좀. 그래서 니빠도 마셔 가니 싫어. 또 마시고라. 뭐 내가 간다. 어디 어디 원 마시고라. 또 마셔 가니 와 하고 싶어.
And subtle excitement is, while not losing one's objects of observations, one scatters outward. One scatters outwardly. So while not losing one's objects of observation, one scatters outwardly. So that is subtle excitement.
被晓得嘛，都差不多的去就话，得给些味道啊，对吧？差不多的去就话，差不多的去就话，都差不多的。
差不了吗？
差不多了。
啊，
爱死了，爱死。
哦，差不多了。
差不多了。
哦，
就透了，被透了。
怎么说？ 也是拉松润哦。
是什么？
啊，
现晓得嘛？是차비 원의 치료받아. 치료받아 가다 이게 가다 되어마 이게 되어마 다 세보는 하는 이게 되어야 말와. 차비 원의 치료받아 미리 이지 마셔와 소야 장하세. 이지 마셔와 차비 원의 치료받아 소야 장.甚至实际的가다 시로지去了吧. 이도 와지라. 넘바. 지금 거기 왔지.实际是吧? 넘바. 거기 왔지. 또 이게 생이 왔지.是吧? 생이 왔대. 니지라. 이 내가서 간다. 나한테 가르스나 누가 참았지. 나 랑기 이빠도 베스 봐주와지. 잡으면 치주가 들어와.
차비 원래 주기와 돼야.
막 고도 나한테 수기가 통로 봐. 이 앞에 수는 봐. 혹시 수는 봐. 너 제가 봐 얘로.
템기 수지 라인에
수들 봐 얘로. 얘나 계시. 바로 얘로데. 그러니까 니는 밑바닥 잡으면 치주가 그 본을 니나这个 베기지라 실로 중에 무슨 좋아 얘로데 얘를 가라这个 밑바닥 쉬어야만 니나 나다 얘도 예차 좋아 예차에서.
So this subtle excitement is likened to how to say the water flows under ice. Yeah, water flows under the how to say, like for example Arctic, right? Yeah, so Arctic or piece of because it's frozen already. The river is frozen already, but you see the water flows under the frozen. So the frozen surface, yeah. So you see water flows under the frozen surface. So this is this subtle excitement is likened to this example. So meaning that even though you do not lose your object of observations, but a part of your mind has already scattered outwards. So your mind has already distracted. So distracted or scattered outwards to pleasant objects, part of your mind. So this is subtle excitement. So even though you do not lose your objects of observations, but a part of your mind has already scattered or distracted to a pleasant object outwardly.
어디 들어와. 나도 뭐보다 가서 다 그리고 누가 살아 스피치. 그러니까 그거보다 시원히 근데 집에서 먹고 이렇게 저런 거 좀 맞게 들어와. 나 아까 세 위보는 내가 빠지 계시지. 그들와 신앙도 미발아 따바나 that's 가지고 누가 내가 누가 쉬서와 이게 세미발이 빠지 그래서 보러와 세미발이 빠지 그래서 세미발 따바나 누가 다 빠지 그래서 막 일단 마시고와 신앙도 아까 신의 자기 신의 세미발이 빠지 그래서 나서 와 다 빠지 제발에 딱 안에 들어가는 그것도 뭔가 이 적인 거 와. 와. 신앙도 미발아 따바나 다 주려라서 잡이 그 원이 되더라. 신의 아 달라서 받기 수 제보라서 받 대가이 원라서 받기 솔라 차부기 솔라 차비 베세 되는데 안다 안다 세미발아니 받으라 같이 그래서 와 그거 세미발이 같이 되는 거였어. 어디
Yeah. So its function, excitement functions to disrupt the mind based on its object. So how does excitement disrupt the mind placed on its object is while tied to an inner object, the mind is drawn without control through the excitement of attachment to forms such as sounds and becomes distracted. So this is how it functions. So mind is drawn uncontrollably through the excitements of attachment. So because of we say that excitement is a part of attachment, right? So the mind is pulled away from objects of observations uncontrollably due to attachment to beautiful forms and such as and also like pleasant sounds. And then because of this, then one becomes distracted.
아간다 데리와 아간다 데리에 가서 뭐바디 내가 신비반이 같이 재미에서 간다 뭐바 그런 거에 나 술제보다 내가 몰라서 봤더니 밀레게 뭐바 봐 그때우리 렉슨 데이를 안 보여 맞나 나 도시 와세데 이발 같이가 세데 이게 치료 그런다 와 세데 데이를 주로 뭐바디 뭐바디 데이를 주로서 나 세인 바들라 마테 버시 뭐바디 제라 로죠 간다 이거 힘도 보는 거 싫어이나 이게 누이 제바다 가니 몰라서 봐 내가 앞에 아바 온 파비 세데 냐고 치료 세데 그들은 거예요 기라 루제 때간다 신비반 냐 발사 같이 제로 그다 보대보지 무슨 말이야 좋아
So to explain this in an easy way is excitement attached to beautiful form, excitement attached to pleasant sound, and etc. So this attachment brings the mind to those objects. So this is this is how it's explained in a very easy way. So excitement attached to beautiful form, pleasant sound. So and similarly, this excitement pulls the mind or throw the minds to those pleasant objects.
나 어디 제가 고민 자대는 로고로 제가 도도 이게라 이게라 하피 원에 전세 신가마 신가마 때가 소고도 이 대다라 간다 차비니 그거 이제 그거 되게 처음에 세대 되지라 사례 세대 로마에 되게 그래서 그래서 무슨 데이터 그 인사이트 그거 되게 와
It's just as stated in Chandra Gomin's Praise of Compassions. So right when you are focused on shamatha, directing your mind and object again and again, your attention is drawn away by the noose of the afflictions without control, by the rope of attachment to objects. So basically it says that one's mind is being pulled away is being drawn from the objects of observations to pleasant objects, drawn by the attachment, by the ropes of attachment to pleasant objects.
그것도 지금 완전히 신원인데 와 그걸 신원을 해서 와 신원도마 맞아 어찌래 신원 좀 먹을래 간다 신발에 신원다 그 까도 지금 신원서 신원서데 벌써 된다 지다 주고 와 된다 지다
깜디네
깜디라 깜디라 지다 보는 거 와 이러니까 그 또 가도록 다 간다 신원서 된다 지다 와
So in many next we are going to next we talk about laxity. So in many translations, laxity is also rendered as sinking or slackness, mental slackness or slackness. So regarding this, in this context, laxity and slackness are synonymous. So however, in general, when we talk about laxity and slackness in general, then it is different. They are different. In this context, they are the same.
가시기 간다 신원도 문관이 기다 문관이 이게 왜 이래 그 자원이 이거 말해서 와 뭐도 문관서 그 신문관은 가서 같이 뭐야 와 이거 그 신원도 문관인데 뭐도 버스보다 신이 좋죠 신도 그 신원도 권한이 별로 하자 그래서 그 근데 이 신원도 문관이가 된다 기라 그래서 그 된다 그 말해서 와 된다 그 말해서 뭐도 문관이데 와 그래서 와 그러나 문관의 신원 지지 교정 문관 문관의 신원 교정을 뭐 교정와서 또 신원 자원이 말와 어떻게 지시고 가시기에 신원도 문관 된다지 그래서 그 문이 열려서 말와 그래서
So some people claim that laxity is when the mind does not scatter to other objects, but is lethargic and lacks clarity and limpidity. So some people claim that laxity is the same as lethargic. Some people claim that, however, it is not the same. Laxity is not the same as lethargic. They are not synonymous. So why do we say that laxity and lethargic are not the same? Because lethargic is the cause of laxity. Lethargic is one of the cause of laxity. So since lethargic is one of the cause of laxity, therefore lethargic is not the same as lethargy and laxity are not the same.
那可能行为的不同，因为可能看到把很多我的灵活的艺术，灵活的艺术，你是叫来，我的也是可能什么的话，灵活的你老师你是叫的话，你的是叫，那你是经过超你等我的行为灵活的话，你是叫啊，
如mupanyiso，
你的是叫，你是叫的处理是。
有些叫我雷中是，有些叫我跌了，
叫了，所以中国人看到有我报的你是叫啊，你说那种没是情况是吧？是中国人，而情况在看到现在年轻人在3,500岁蛮龙马的，情况都蛮的龙马的，我这里是不的啥
，3,500可以讲，
这个比较低了啊，我的到底蛮龙的，我报的你。 你对我来说，你我说我的马地龙马的，我这里是的是，马地龙马的，我这里是的是，
叫我有的，
我这里没有的是，
如木巴你说刘生叫我，
我是叫我是那个的是，
刘生叫我得累的是，
我是叫我呢，但喜欢叫我的是，我喜欢叫我，就莫把的你是叫我是喜欢叫的是，我喜欢就是个，他不是喜欢叫的是，我说你是经过差不多1年到学历差不多那个喜欢的那个吧，我的，
so laxity is said to be produced from heaviness in physical and mental heaviness, such as lưu sim chi wa le ki yo rồi lưu sim chi wa na yang di fu ji rồi mu ba dang ni na lưu sim chi wa rồi so yeah, so sorry, yeah, laxity laxity is produced from its causes such as sleepiness, lethargy, and physical and mental heaviness. And its nature is unobscured and neutral. So, and they are laxity, are virtuous types of laxity also.
那看到喜欢的我得的话，就莫把的你是叫我自己叫我的是，但喜欢的那个看到谁了年轻有的也是，看到是吧？年轻的有的也是吧？年轻有的呢，3,500的学啥的，3,500的学啥的，喜欢的多啊，3,000的学，那喜欢不能当，马的马的来吧，我马的，我这里有的也是，那喜欢的看到去东西，你这都是小多啊，我的就莫把的你是跟我来说，现在年轻有的个，现在年轻有讲3,500没比，3,500买学一个，现在年轻有的3,500学一个，可能我的马的的，我这里边不能也是，是吧？我得想想，我喜欢这个东西，他们这讲的话，
So in general, to identify laxity is when laxity arises. One's mind, there is stability in one's mind. However, one has already lost the intensity of clarity. At that point of time, laxity has arisen. So laxity has already arisen when one's mind still has the stability, but the intensity of clarity has already declined. And the nature of laxity is it is unobscured and neutral, and they are virtuous types of laxity.
我觉得话，我感到木巴的喜欢的基本马的也是嘛，就木巴喜欢的话，木巴喜欢的看到，给我的一路马的考虑，不差不多这个也是嘛，木巴喜欢的， Mdiwa the Diluma, Mdiwa the Diluma de Karuda, Muchato, yes, you are, Muchato. Muchato. That new more than new what Tanji goes to. New that need would work. That new got it to watch. Good watch. We can be done that we see less more. We see less more. She is that. Look what's it. What?
Very less
You see less more. Yes, one.
So we say that lethargy and laxity are not the same. Lethargy and laxity, they are not the same. Why? Because lethargy is non-virtuous, and it is obscure and neutral, and it belongs to the category of ignorance. So it's a part of ignorance, and it assists afflictions and secondary afflictions, and it causes the body and mind to become to be unserviceable. So this is lethargy. Because of this reason, we say lethargy and laxity, they are not the same. So lethargy is non-virtuous, it is obscure and neutral, and it is a part of ignorance, and it assists afflictions and secondary afflictions, and it functions. It causes the body and mind to be unserviceable.
Oh, the tag on that one to move what that's what you are. You can go to the devotion of the Mupa the Shi Jury, yes, you are. Mupa the Shi Jury, oh, Marias, Mupa Korokanda, oh, Madino Matira, the Dino Matis, she won't be caught as one. Or that Jim Marinas Dutch. I see she won't be the village like the Jim Marias that and that over you are.
Yeah, so even though some claim that lethargy and laxity are the same, however, I say we should distinguish these two. In brief, the way to distinguish them is lethargy is the cause of laxity, and lethargy is non-virtuous, obscure, and neutral, which is different from laxity.
I want to quintilate the digger, she won't need to know you got the chimney. This should be knowing like the way the money is hosting. That was this one. The Kataran, Ori Babale, Ori Babata, Delays and Dua, Intelligence.
Oh,
Intelligence. Dua, Intelligence, she won. Indeed, no, you got the ship, has a long door. Or this should be knowing this should be knowing like the way the money is. I got that because also. I is what you are. Didn't know it like also. Why here's one? Why you would have night? That you are you would have. You got here's somebody. Any cousin, the she got you are. Because no is show you are. You didn't know it. No change show the money. Show the matter. You was all the Yoma. You are your man. And then was a shinigi. Why she take a night like that? You are the Muji. Yes.
升中而家啦，升中而家啦，
升中過啦，我說你連續修嘅話，你連續我哪一些嘅話，哪一啲農業嘛都地方有嘛的，啲哪一個農業嘛都地方有嘛，啲是過嚟。但係我說跟住個把這些哪一修嘅話，啲哪一個啦，我說農業嘛，因為嘅話，我哋應該有是過嚟，應該有。
前呢個級數識別，
我前呢個是哪一啲？呢個就是哪一啲？前呢個把這些哪一啲啦？
In the compendium of Abhidhamma, laxity is indeed explained in the context of the secondary afflictions of distractions. So when we talk about the distractions, in the secondary afflictions of distraction, So when we talk about distractions, so distractions mentioned in the secondary affliction. So we learned about mind and mental factors, right? So the distractions mentioned in the category of secondary afflictions is afflicted. So there is only the distractions mentioned in the category of secondary afflictions is afflicted. However, distractions mentioned in the context of home abiding, it can be afflicted, it can be virtuous.
What is Roda? Then in the Murta and the one Madegata, and the Egypt, the patient of Fatumani Dua, one in the as and Dua. One in the Lila Casna, movie Chashi, the humor, movie Chashi, you say Chishi, less of Moruahila. So if you don't draw the movie Chashi, we say Chish, less of Moruahila. Yes, well, not the Kunda one another, but the Kunda leader and the next Roma to Songua, we say Chishi. Yes, Moruachi, yes, positive that there is somebody else.
Again, the Lusemchi what they the some was again also the Mupa Ni Lusemchi or Denzo So consequently, in the Compendium of Abhidhamma and in the Treasury of Abhidhamma Auto Commentary, lethargy is said to be a heaviness and unserviceability of the body and the mind that forms part of ignorance. So that forms part of ignorance. In other words, it is a part of ignorance, or it belongs to the category of ignorance.
Since you put the hair on it, you want to be put the hair on it. What gives it to us? Really, Kana, well, so a woman ziba. Really, there's some woman ziba. Woman ziba, I'll tell you, John. Everything is in that. So, when I don't want to be yes, well, so a woman ziba, the danger to be in Zimbabwe. This our winner, so the winner, yeah, listen on that. What? The city people the head on. One day at the city people head on it. City people head on the edition of the Mura.
With laxity, the way the mind holds its object is slack, and the object is not held clearly or tightly. Therefore, even if limpidity is present, when the way the object is held lacks clarity, there is laxity. So, laxity comes when the mind's ways of branding its object is slack or is loose. So when it becomes too loose, then you do not object is not held clearly or tightly. So since the object lacks clarity, then laxity has already reason.
Only Baba might want to pay the song. Only Baba Casana, and be what about Miba Nawa Sugar. Timo was the water, Timo, Miba Sugar, Sugar, Yetavakanda, Bitsumbatava. But take us a cacket home, you pay home. Oh, Tumbatava, the Siji Miba, in the Sawa Maton. That Siji was a Miba, then Hashila water, in water, Miba Sugar, Bitsumbatavas. So pay shower. In Nashi, the Siji Miba. So it's in a dashing of the level. Yes, it's in the yes.
In the second stages of meditation says, you know that at times when the mind does not see the object clearly, like someone blind or someone entering darkness or someone closing his eyes, there is laxity. So this mind not seeing the object clearly is likened to someone who is blind, or someone entering darkness, or someone closing his eyes. So since the mind does not see the object clearly, laxity has already arisen.
I think one more young child, Jenny Shin, Jenny Sawa, so Madon was the young child. It's ever for Madon. The other machine go one. The Shiwala, but the Shiwali, Damadon, Joe, this one. Shiwala, you are the Lumati, but you're the Gilumatic Chahiri, is it? I can't Shiwala, you are the chicken, but it can't see it. It can't be what it is. Anyone, reaching Marie, the water, capacity, the few Maris don't get share it. You want the Lumati, and the chicken Maris. She wanted what the Lumati knew. Why she wanted to move, she wanted to move. 这个呢，学了我的么你有多少？那么给我的，你我的，目前的不会也是，这个现在我们现在几点不多啊？我这个是什么嘛？
So to conclude, this is laxity is either virtuous or neutral, whereas lethargy is only a non-virtuous or neutral obstructions and part of ignorance. So this shows that laxity is different from lethargy. So because laxity can be virtuous or can be neutral, whereas lethargy is only a non-virtuous or obscured and neutral, and it is a part of ignorance.
到底我嘛的，到选吃完了呢，这对我嘛的，我对我吃了那么多，吃完了呢，希望吃完了不是更多，这个等到的嘛，搞的时候是呢，他希望吃完了，希望吃完了啊，如果不来是呢，希望吃完了，剩下的你不来，他没得嘛修，希望的怕吃完了，搞不来是呢，剩下的当前的，剩下的等下是等下是呢，啊，等下的等到这个是吧？
等下，
等下，哦，等下，那等下，剩下是呢，你等到这个不等的，
当然了，
我在这里剩下，等下是，我知道嘛，是等到，以前的等到这个人，
其實等到四下等，
我的希望的把吃完了，搞不来是呢，剩下的，而且等下做不来也是的。
Yeah. So the Greek text says that in order to eliminate laxity, so you need clarity, tightness, and limpidity. So in general, these are the same: clarity, tightness, and limpidity.
他的用吃完了呢，希望吃完了，不是说可以的，那我呢，是对不说的。现在你爸爸的有没少的，我经常骂的时候，骂你也是，你把少啊，你经常去，你看那个不是他等到的些多啊，他的讲的，就是不是说太有了，他对过了是吧？说的啥，反正说的，那点个出钱多也说的那个的，是吧？身体有贵呢，后面也是肯定的是说，两几百，什么说到的讲，再给了呗。希望这种东西，他都看到，我写下去了，不是了，是吧？一个是，是带呀，是吧？是带的，但那我是嘛说，那我解释，那我你把个面膜的话，那我说的你把个面膜的话，那我的那个你把写的话，我等那我也是，不是了，有的说了吧，是的，等那我，那是呀，先把混。先把拖单子的情况下，之类的话，先把要拖单，你说，我也是他讲的情况下完了。
So the Greek text says that in order to eliminate laxity, you should uplift the mind by meditating on a joyful object such as Buddha's image or light. So such as Buddha image, the object that you have great faith in. So Buddha Shakyamuni, or Amitabha or Kuan Yin. So then you should meditate on those joyful objects, or you should take to mind those joyful objects such as Buddha image or light. So light is the antidote to darkness, right? So here it says that you thereby prevent lack of clarity in the object, which is like darkness having fallen on the mind. So you eliminate laxity that is likened to darkness. So then you meditate on light that is the antidote to darkness.
我大概的现在美国不把代表没么少是吧？我现在我说美国不把代表没么少，我真的妈的说地方搞不来，看那个你嘛搞不来，这新闻里头现在美国不把代表是吧？现在美国不把代表有么少去来是吧？有的么少去，好的，我也知道的，把是把的是吧？你把搞不来是我也知道嘛是吧？把可能是现在是把混过来的是吧？当问题是吧？你把的看到晒完的，经常就不像你个。Anybody possible that is that
So you thereby prevent lack of clarity in the object, which is like darkness having fallen on the mind, and you prevent decline in the way the mind holds it. Then you need to both clarify the object and tighten how you hold it. So when laxity arises, thì cái nó chỉnh qua thì kia này để chỉnh tăng để lừa rồi, cái nó để chỉnh tăng để lừa này chỉnh qua thì kia cái chỉnh qua thì cái này,
喜欢溜的单的嘛，是吧？
嗯，
心念的是吧？
马路的咯，
心理观念嘛，马路是不是？
嗯，
另外的溜的是马路，也
哦，chỉnh tăng để chỉnh qua để lừa này, ini để chỉnh tăng để马路
马路，
嗯，
那你马路吧，把搞，马路吧，把搞的心不也先把的混。
嗯，
我这当你得把希望看的个是，你把少的情况，你怎么来做？
so you thereby yeah. So when laxity arises, your mind's way of apprehending the object is loosened or relaxed. So relaxed also means that it's loosened. So and the object, there is no clarity in your objects of observations. Similarly, darkness is like darkness has already fallen on your mind. So in order to remove this, eliminate laxity, so you need to uplift your mind. And in order to uplift your mind, you need two aspects. The two aspects are clarity and tightness in your concentration.
那我喜欢生活了，他可以就是话，那我就喜欢生活的情况，就喜欢生活，当我就起下的结果的，喜欢生活的我就，谁的没把它念的有的，那谁不没法当，是吧？那先把嘛骂了才，跟着吧，你谁的没少啊，谁了你不把他的，干这些准备的，他喜欢的来噻，喜欢的是吧？那喜欢的是，他本来就但是我说谁的呀，我都喜欢的的。 你喜欢的可多个，先把拖了，当然不介意的。你要不说了，说是对吧？你比生活方面喜欢把啥样，是吧？啊，那我嘛的，那就说，就是特别现在刚才喜欢把啥样太喜欢了，是吧？
Simi bala thandin negi yorwa.
现在
Cisa de nature 有
我
的。
现你干了，他喜欢这个是吧？
Yeah, so therefore you need to both clarify the object, refers to the clarity aspect, and tighten how you hold it, refers to the tightness aspect. So when laxity arises, then even though the mind is still stays on the objects of observations, but there is no more clarity. So when this happens in your meditations, then you should know that laxity has already arisen. So in order to eliminate laxity, then you should uplift your mind. So how do you uplift your mind? You uplift your mind by meditate on Buddha's image. So those are pleasant objects or the objects that you have great faith in. So you should meditate on those pleasant objects such as a Buddha's image, or take to mind, or meditate on lights.
我就说，刚刚就说的，没把你弄了，搞得没把你用啊的，你那个也是，对吧？没把你留的，连那个也是，我就别，他不别有也是，那个也是，你那个也是，没把你用吧的，我回来连那个也是，是吧？没把你留的，另外的对，他那个对吧？对，先工作就主要是少啊，是的，你要么这边的写稿的。 这个我们今年说的给全部的也是都是人家就是是吧？给全部的也是，你把给全部的，那个今年的，没把起了，希望的，他这个今年的就没把起，完了希望的满足把起，说那么这个呢，希望的这个，那个我的年收报有的也说，是吧？你说搞不出的，啊，说被年龄不同的，有的年龄不同的，希望的这个。 要不他去教我的是年龄，是吧？年龄对他当不学的，你别说的，也不有人说呢，说呢，我不一个了，我的哪怕是我的，我那张的说年龄错的，你那么多，这个情况没什么，这也不是吧？这也不是过来嘛都，我是情况是吧？就当我就说对，实在不行了，所以嘛，没说要嘛也是，
So to laxity and excitement, which one is easier to recognize? Excitement is easier to recognize, but laxity is difficult to understand because it is not clearly identified in the great text. So it is not clearly identified in those great texts. Yet such an understanding is essential. So you must still understand laxity or identify laxity. And because this is a major ground for mistaking one's concentration to be faultless. So some people, they do meditations. So even though the laxity has already arisen, but since they do not identify them, and then their meditation is not faultless. Their meditation is flawed because of the arising of laxity. Yet, since they do not clearly identify them, then they regard their meditation as flawless or faultless. So therefore, you should investigate and identify it well with mental subtlety based on your experience and in accordance with the statements in stages of meditations. So you should refer to those texts and then try to identify laxity and excitement. And then in your meditations, then when you're doing meditations, then you should check your mind whether laxity or excitement arises or not. So you should base on your experience.
我三个过去这个了，心地并没有，我记这个当不心地的希望的各个你的达到的我这个参谋也不给我的，这也估计嘛西边的这我的心地，我这个看来希望我这个要嘛是吧？我这个嘛，这样子公家的希望你出点那个地方，当不希望的各个的那个，也不信我。我是我这个人的，你就那边呢，我这个你那边呢，各把人家上，你什么就那边就不过是吧？我这你嘛什么呢？那就我这个了，对吧？这个我们这边喜欢是，他们的过年出这个东西，我的生活是吧？我这个我生活，我这个情况，他们是我们这个，我这个了，我在把这个我把希望的传了，我把希望传了，也不他不知道，这也不写不的。
Ini di semua nalo lah di sebung di nguesung yo.
我看新的熊全部做了呗，希望这些当的等级别的是别是什么等级人是嘛的呢？那么现在也是多啊，什么节要嘛也是看什么，是吧？是也说要嘛的是看什么嘛都是要也是我。那希望的呗，也进步高过也送啥的话，看什么进的呗，但这里如果是什么，不是。
Kadang daw ini di sungsa is ini di lune ni dang di nguesung ya.
Oh, yes, yes,
Yeah, so in order to have a faultless meditations, then one must properly identify the coarse and subtle types of laxity and excitement. Without properly identifying them, then it's very difficult to do a faultless meditations. And after you properly identify them, laxity and excitement, then when you are doing meditations, then you check whether laxity and excitement arises or not. So if you do not understand laxity or excitement well, then don't mention that you can identify them or you can notice them in your meditations. So even though the text it says here is laxity is difficult to understand because it is not clearly identified in the great text. So even though they are not clearly identified in the great text, however, through explanations, then you can still identify what laxity is. Like for example, through how you stopped laxity when it arises. Then from such explanations, then you can also identify what laxity is.
我的是吧？主要是设计你把的是吧？他设计你把心有这个要找你们说不是？对，设计你把的嘛对的吧？他设计你把看到心地什么西吧，心地结果吧是他讲的的，设计你把的吧？设计你把的看到嘛说，心地那么就他心地里面把结果不也是？对，他设计你把的。
Kisah tua cileng itu tentang yang nanti lucu ni semua.
我的主要就是讲的。
So before I proceed to outline the method for generating vigilance that recognizes laxity and excitement during meditation. So before I proceed to this outline, do you have any question? Sorry?
Ken, I've got Kishla, I've got two questions.
Yes.
The first one is, can we summarize in general that excitement though the context that Gishla has explained today is basically related to pleasant objects, but excitement can also arise when one is distracted by one's problems, right? For example, if somebody is concerned about some of their, maybe their health problems or a family problem, and if they're sitting down to meditate, if that distracts them, that will also be a form of excitement, correct? So can we say then that excitement is something which is directed to any, to an attachment to something external, and laxity to something internal? I mean, with heaviness and maybe drowsiness and sleepiness. That's my first question.
Chúa thằng bùi na thì người bao nhiêu rồi, người bao nhiêu thì cái thì dùng như là thì xem châu nhiều rồi, thì nên yang sam sam lang cho su su cái缺点的cái是身体起来了，身体起来了，就人的身体让有钱来的châu nhiều rồi, 이 값수 양 그바기 왕기 셈 초기에나
다른 체조는
양 그래서 아주 미발라데 미제 미발라데 내제 이내 양 수수 trading이 수수 trading의 셈제 체네 셈제 체네 양 유신다라 이 그나차잖아 수수기 trading의 이 유钱가서 수수기 trading 속에 유钱라 토와이나 ini diang goba chong we ke kai nas
유신은 조사가 요대 가서 요나 같이 이거 와지는 거가 잡어요. 유신
조사데
조사데 이도 왜 너무 요 체들에 뭐나 이거가 잡어요 말이. 그래서 명우신나 와
남명으로
와게 돌아야 돼. 나 기왕 돌아와야 돼. 당왕 돌아와야 와. 수도만 돌아야 돼. 그거 잡어요. 당왕 돌아와 지어로 와. 그다음 시당 돌아와다. 야 당왕 그때 만다 야 고도하게 돌아와다. 나기왕 돌아와다. 그리고 돌아와더니 뭐뭐 용으로 와. 저마도 유명하게 와 돌아온다. 그거 잡어요.
남예리데 고바 말와 그바 남예리데
나이를 좋아해. 좋아하는 것도 몇 번은 좋아해. 좋아하다 나이를 좀 봐. 그거 힘 말와. 그거 코너가 다가는 나이를 그거 네가 잘 봐.
남미당 좋아하데 지로 아이들
나이를 좋아한다. 나이를 좋아지 작은 말이.
간단히 그바 있는 데 좋아하는 데 그바 있고 말와 아주 양 지와디 나로라 양 차니
저런 거 늘 인생이 무슨 말이다. 수 최대 오게 때 내가 보지라 차.面积牛股都是面差，是确定我。然后确定我个别，卡拉也不去，卡拉也不去了。你确定我个卡拉的三两个确定别个那个等你卡拉是移动忘记了，你了他把一拿，我把超过了，是确定我个吧？是确定我个别谁行不了是吧？谁行不了，他把有了吧？你我把超过了，确定我。但是说对确定要不要就是谁行不有了吧？谁行不是确定的偏有了吧？我对了差不的。방어에서 그거 당연히 됐어. 내 많이 봐 소속에 대사 많이 봐 소속에 내가 봐야 되지. 내군들아 로고도서 내가 지금 로고도서 로바한테 세를 초로와 때가도 누가 계시고. 이게 밖에 말이야.
남예로
내 나이로
포아리
어디 초아래.
남예
초아 나이로 봐 이렇게 뭐.
Yeah, so the example that you mentioned, if one due to one's health problems or etc., then you one's mind scattered to other objects. So then you say that excitement has and you say that excitement has already arisen. So in this context, if the object must be a pleasant object, so the object must be a pleasant object. And for one's mind to be scattered to other objects or being distracted, it can be due to anger, it can be due to pride, it can be due to ignorance. So such can be a distraction. Such can be a mind scattering of the mind. So if the object is not pleasant, like delicious food, then it is not an excitement. So it is a scattering of the mind. It is a distraction, but it is not excitement. So just as just as I mentioned just now, excitement is necessarily a scattering of the mind. Scattering of the mind is not necessarily an excitement. However, if your context is because of a health problem, so one's mind attachment to effective medicine, attachment to delicious food, thinking that this will be good for my health, then if it's still to this, then yes, it is part of excitement. They jalan di kungi chuan ni bat lore. Yang tom gam tindi tom gam na tigi olas. Geba thang kingwe sete. Kingwa sete yang kasan di ni mu gi wang di ini yang sim nang du tu ba. Ini yang geba ina yang kasan di yu cha gi wang gi ini sim ki to ba. Sim chi to ba, sim nang du tu ba. They lam na tigi o.
시원하게 신나도 뒤시고 말해. 그 시원하게 신나도 누구 말해. 신나도 뒤치다는 시원하게 그래서. 세 너도 이 하나 뭐 그래 해서 시원 그런 신나도 뒤시고 말해. 시원하게 신나도 뒤시고. 신나도 뒤다나 시원하게 레벨에 서도 제거를 해서 신나도 뒤다나 세계지 뭐 말이나 시원하게 그래서.
신나도 뒤다나
시원하게 그래서. 그거 그런 신나도 뒤시고.
David Singh thì gửi bài này xem chi thua à, đến đây nè. Gửi bài này xem chi thua à, chỉ bài này xem năng được điều tra.
xem chi thua 봤으면 이거. 그거 그거 시 thua 봤으면 이거. 야, xem chi thua 그거 개발 잡고 오면 돼요. 야, 그거 봐. 옆에 수도 띵해들 명바 샤도 거는 xem chi thua 상지 그거 잡고 오면 돼. 그거 잡고. 다른 어서도 지나 그거보다 나이에서 와다. 소배 공부해서 니 참아도 신이 두발아 같이 지게래 되기는 그거보다 또 가르치는 샤브를 시와도 가르치는 샤브도 주세요. 요요. 그거보다 가르치는 샤브를 해서 와 또라 무슨 쇼는 마시우데 신기는 그거보다 배 신팅인데 두발아 같이 지게지 쉬우지 위해서 샤야 또 무슨 지게도 아 공부하다 니도 소 같이 지게래 나에서 같이 지게도 샤무 무슨 거
무반낭이네.
무반낭에 니 요러 그 섬마게 딜레시 근데 시대기 같이 지야라 또 샤브 무슨 아도스 도바도스 레벨 때 제일 맛있죠. 그렇죠.
sim năng được điều tra nó nên thì chỉ ngoan lê cái
어,
đó.
오늘 시원 프로그램 빌려고 말했어. 이 말이.
sim năng được điều tra nó chỉ ngoan lê cái. Cái này thì gửi bài thì chi thôi na để làm nó chỉ cái để này thì sang mà cái chỗ này này thì sim sang mà là sim làm cái chỗ này này gửi bài như vậy.
그거 플러스 그거 째서 세치 토사레스고. 세치라 토고레스. 그거 째우디 세치라 토고레스. 세치라 토고지 그거 말레스.
Yeah, so to summarize, the summary that you mentioned just now. So when you say withdrawal of the mind, so if you withdraw your mind too much inwardly, then yes, laxity arises. If you withdraw your mind too much inwardly or excessive withdrawal inwardly, then laxity arises. So then there is laxity. And when we talk about excitement, so you say excitement is a scattering of the mind outwardly. Then you can see that. However, you should know that not all kinds of scattering of the mind outwardly are due to our excitement. Not all scattering of the mind are excitement. So how is it differentiate the scattering of the mind and excitement?
몇 번은 레오디실로 토를 했으면 그거였지.
So when excitement arises, yes, one's mind scatters outwardly. So however, not all scattering of the mind outwardly are excitement.
Thank you, Geshe-la. I've got one very quick question, which is regarding the Buddha image. So if one uses, for example, in my case, I'm using the Buddha image from Bodh Gaya as my object of concentration. Now, when I actually am examining before I start my meditation, you observe the image, but the image is the image of the Bodh Gaya statue. But we know theoretically that the Buddha is uplifted by 8 Bodhisattva lions on a golden throne, upon which is the lotus, and on lotus there is a moon and sun cushion, and then on that the Buddha sits, and he sits with a meditative equipoise position and holding a nectar bowl of containing the nectars of immortality, all these things, details. When you meditate, do you remember all this? Do you look at all this, or do you just look at the image as such and only focus on the things of the image that you see in that statue?
I mean, whether do you focus on the specific part of it?
Qualities, or the qualities, like for example, the Buddha has got 32 major marks and 80 minor marks, the webbed feet, the chakra in his feet, all those things are details of the Buddha's body that we know of in our study, in our text. Do we recollect that, or do we just focus on just the Buddha's image on that statue only?
Nanti Jawan ni bayus, ini yang pernah saya tembeku lah di mi bacigus. Ini yang di yang budaya di kondat lah ini mi bacigus. Ini di mi bacine anjo di mi bacine sim ni bekala yang tembagi yuan den sola. Yang nanti yuan den sola yang semua tang yuan as pernah saya kasa PJ di yang semua tang yuan yang na ini yang kasa temba ina yang kasa yang si segi T lah shu yo ba ini segi T gang lah ini yang pema yo ba pema di gang lah yang di ni lagi yo ba ni lah yo ba di ini yang di cara di visit kasa di working go down making go lah ni working go down making go di gang lah ini yang saya ba dan ini yang kata di di 차상 di samutang go yana chechu din zo yana di message di 차상 di samutang go yana yang na ini di yang kata kuiji di samutang mi ba chi go
所以这我说弄明白了，到我的时候弄明白，弄个明白嘛，弄个明白到我的时候，然后我就被根据国的，那是现在的被那个革命，有点了把党部的把兄弟是那把党部的14罗，党部的被根据国，可能一切的就是的罗，这一切依赖差的温度啊，他根据有国，别人老说把他，数人家说白，把他依赖差的温度，党部等地去。 상당히 너무 세다, 배제다, 외세, 그래서 큰 상당히 많았어요.
yang pernah saya sana di sudah ini di budaya di kunda di ini yang di PJ dah ini di segi di做dah yang kata di ini me yo marwa.
아무 데도 또 너무 말해. 때리 꼭 그러나. 그러나. 그래 양자양자 고바들이 왜 나오시. 왜 나오고
근데 꾸랑.
꾸랑. 근데서 서로간에 근데 뒤를 못 되나 뒤투바 나오시. 뒤투바는 근데 우리 왜 때리 고게 안다. 이거 지내라서 받아. 간다. 거기 지도라서 받아. 예, 제다. 안치도도. 찬치도 때리 봐 이거 상황방송을 하고 그래서 간다. 밖에 들어와. 아무 왜세? 아 유치는 왜세 좋아. 아 왜세 그 무슨 세상 앞에 쉬운 거야. 근데 신이 말로도 림바이 림바로 그래서 림바로 나지. 아무리 토마토 상당히 말았어. 아무리 프랑 상당히 버스 옆에 대표같이 원래 세보차. 근데 꼭 그런 세보차 줄을 버스 대표구나. 이거 내가 비슷하다. 나 가리 보나. 양자 보고 바로 세보차 도구나. 근데 그게 자식들서 이 상당히 그랬어. 버스 자식이 왜 이거 세고 외세로 왔던 이 상당히 내들이 로컬 림바기도 내가 상고했어.
그래서 정보 있는 디지 lah, ini dici, kali ini dici dah di samutang.
Kalau sudah rimba juga sih, udah, siapa, siapa, terus kamu cakap so kalau cari sama rimba sih samutang, sebab cer, yang samutang.
Yeah, so it depends on one's mental ability. So in general, when you take Buddha's image, when you take Buddha's as your object of observation, then at the beginning, then you should focus on the general image, overall image of Buddha Shakyamuni. For example, the head, limbs and torso. So after you meditate it, after you meditate it for some time and the object is clear, you have such clarity in your meditations for a period of time, then gradually you start to think about the details of Buddha. For example, the pinnacles, bowls and etc. Radiating lights and etc. So first you start with general image, then slowly, gradually, then you focus on the details of the object. Di cheda di konda cheda di samutang ne, ini yang di mi ba chego yo na ya na di samutang ne, ini di yang ya kui ji la, di samutang go yo la. 就第三步的轨迹了，第三步当前，因为第四步穷些，因为第卡嘞，你样就这样就多大位呢？这样的，这样你这第三步当前，第三步当呢，样卡对的样个轨迹了，第三步当位了。
轨迹了有意思了，轨迹了要把写了的。
有呗，写下去呢，因为这样的你是不第三步当。Yeah, so when you gradually focus on the details of the Buddha's image, then when you focus on the face, for example, when you focus on the face of Buddha, you still have the overall image. It's just that you have the overall image, but you focus your mind on this particular parts of the body, for example, the face of Buddha. Yeah, so first you should first treat yourself with the overall image of Buddha Shakyamuni.
原本刚才公布我只要不搞的过了，1年多了，2线是过的，打了被社会要不社会的呢，这样有人把这个就是地铁会拆卸这个第三档的，会拆卸的，到位置的吧，到位置的吧，三档给全部销毁。
So if you are able to have the clarity of mental image in your meditations for a short time or for a long time, then gradually you focus your mind on for example, radiating lights, which is a quality of the Buddha's. So, and it is a very important part or aspect to meditate on as well when you develop a stable meditations.
Thank you.
Thank you.小李，我刚才给你做完这个的，这地方就多久？我在这个地方全部自己经过我烧的，完了是有电报的，自己这个很做工结果他，我跟那各地上吧就，各地那么收到的过去，因为上面有跟电报的没点样式，每年都分的，那就呢的确的，那个逻辑要吧，比上面些人，刚才马上在年20年都得了，我们上面这个刚才洗电油，我去那帮朋友。
We dedicate these roots of virtue, especially the roots of virtue that we accumulate through these Dharma lessons, may be the complete cause for Buddha Dharma to flourish and for all sentient beings to experience excellent happiness. We also dedicate these roots of virtue to all upholders of Buddha's teachings, mainly His Holiness Dalai Lama. May they live long with excellent health, and may their enlightened activities and holy wishes be accomplished instantaneously and be spread in all 10 directions. We also dedicate these roots of virtue, especially to our beloved teacher, Geshe Lama Soka Rinpoche, whom endowed with great kindness. May the holy wishes of Rinpoche be swiftly accomplished, and may the unmistaken reincarnations of Rinpoche be swiftly returned, and may continue to turn the wheel of Dharma for the sake of teachings and sentient beings, so that we will have the opportunity to receive the precious teachings from you again, Rinpoche. We also dedicate these roots of virtue to the world peace, and may wars, conflict, pandemic, disaster, natural disaster be ceased immediately. And may excellent happiness prevail in the world. We also dedicate these roots of virtue to those who suffer and those who pass away. So may their negativities and sufferings be ceased immediately and quickly achieve the state of enlightenment. We also dedicate these roots of virtue to those who help others, especially to those who help others, such as doctors, nurses, and those who help others financially. So may they live long, good health, and may their good wishes be fulfilled, be swiftly fulfilled, and achieve the state of enlightenment as soon as possible.
Nabe kewa de tendan roa kunda kambe lang kiba jisun lo san dawa yi tenbe nimpo rindo se je shu kanchu sem cho rinpo je ma ke pa na ki gyu ji ke pa nyamba me ba yang ko te kondo me wa shu Kimba dang kundu sambo de yang de shin de da kungi jesu da lo je kewa de da tam je ra do no tong yi ta rinpo je ma ke pa na ki gyu ji ke pa nyamba me ba yang ko te kondo me wa shu Rimi tawa rimbo je ma ke pa na ki gyu je ke pa nyamba me ba yang ko ne kondo me wa shu Ge song do zhe be lang chi zhe si zi kan jin dian lu gen chan na bi mo dian zhen ge zhou la so wa de so xian dian lu lu shu ka te ben de ma lu ba ka le chu wei sang bei yi xin no ka te su be dian zhen ge zhou la so wa de so du xie lu lu shu ka ga ge se nian rang zhou la ka kia wa ye se gyu ba ji ran shan xin ge gan yu ma lu be dian dian ka tu be ge le zu de zu jian rimbo jie xie dang tu be zi zi be wa la na yang mi su su be gu jia jin zi mei jie zhen lao ma su wa de bi lian pa就为国际部因为电脑马就主啊，一天到季度怎么这边木诺不希望是的一日帮，到就是讲这现在当天天当地都给大部前路面这边养个啥培种，给啥对接培种有些说。岗位各位岗那边当地往马路因为呢，现在是往电证改走一下边时间把都定有。
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Gishla. Thank you, Ken.
给了，那个。